All right, your worship, let's try this again. So as I was saying, previously council received a report on information technology services. That report discussed transitioning from Stronghold to Zuling and repurposing capital item GG07 to move servers in-house. Both those items were approved, and the staff report also noted that there would be further discussions coming to council for the need to upgrade certain devices having to do with Windows 11 upgrade that's coming needed as of the middle of October of this year. So staff had been working with Zuling on this. Zuling provided a list of 30 devices for staff to review. They categorized them as must be upgraded, should be upgraded, and no upgrades needed. This list was basically just without a deeper dive of knowing the actual function, users, all that sort of thing. So when staff went through this list, we were able to come up with a recommended plan of getting a removal of 12 of the devices identified altogether and needing to upgrade 8 this year pretty much immediately. And then for 2026, there would be about 10. So the way that we are proposing these upgrades is right now there are a number of staff that will have both a desktop and a laptop. And so being able to remove a few of these devices by moving to a laptop with docking station, so then they don't have to have two and they can be mobile from different locations with that one laptop. Docking station itself is more affordable than a whole other desktop. So with that, the quote that was provided based on this is for sorry, one second, 6 laptops, with one of them being a hard book for Public Works, and that one is more expensive, but it is needed for that role. 6 docking stations, 4 monitors, and then 2 desktops, because some of the identified devices for the upgrade right away would still remain a desktop, as in like the front reception computer, because that will always be right there. So further discussions with Zuling on this of how we can go about these costs. We also have capital item GG06, which is for the Office 365 upgrades. And so the quote and price that was previously included in the capital budget was from Stronghold, and we have $25,000 slotted for that. Discussing with Zuling, we believe cleaning up some of the accounts and moving that over, that would be more along the lines of $10,000 plus the time for implementation. And so with the devices that we need and the quote provided to be about 16,000 for that, that would be able to be covered under GG06 with a couple grand maybe overflowing, which could be used from working capital that has been approved from the treasurer, if so. So that's what this report is to provide you an update on what those upgrades would entail, the plan that we came to of how to eliminate and move forward. And so we're asking to approve the repurposing of that budget line and any overages to be coming from working capital.
All right. Thank you for that report, Meg. Does anyone have any questions or concerns? Councillor Chilcott.
Thank you. Megan, are there any monitors that we could reuse for these 4 monitors instead of purchasing new? And are docking stations absolutely necessary? Can't you just use the cord?
Through your worship. So why we're only saying 4 monitors is because we are going to be using any of the monitors we have existing, but it is better to be able to have 2 monitors at your station and not one of those being the laptop, because then for just like your posture ergonomics. Yeah. So Thomas, maybe you know a little bit more. I don't, to my knowledge, the docking stations required to connect all of those devices together.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is something that we had implemented at my previous municipality, moving to a leaner IT portfolio for hardware purposes. Docking station allows for individuals to move from desk to desk, and it's a good thing to have just for IT flexibility. Essentially, it works as a port, so the laptop can plug into it. You can have external devices plug into it as well as kind of a um, one-stop shop for different connections and things at the workstation. It also works for a couple of our workstations upstairs, which act sometimes as hot desks for staff that work in different sites and then come to the office to either fill in for supervisory during downtime, or if it's building staff coming in from Malahide as part of that service. Docking stations allow for them to bring their hardware in and dock into our system rather than having to use a desktop, which is about 3 or 4 times the cost of a dock. So it's essentially a way of leaning down our IT portfolio and ensuring that going forward, the replacement costs are less over time.
Okay, additional questions? Megan Zuling, or someone from Dan's shop will be around to assist, because I noticed at the county, when they flip to 365, it threw reception out on my phone, and hopefully someone's here to help us reboot or get that line back up.
Through your worship, that is correct. We expect that Mr. Balint, however you say his last name, himself will be here, or one of his crew, and they'll be here probably about once a week for the next little bit to push these upgrades, install the new devices, do the transition for the Office 365, and make sure that everything is switching over nicely.
Well, if council approves this, you guys are going to be busy for the next couple of weeks getting this stuff on the round. Okay? If there are no further questions, we have a motion that reads that report CL 0625 regarding the IT procurement be received for information, and that identified devices be procured through Zuling Technologies under capital item number GG06, and that any overages in the procurement of required devices and implementation of Office 365 under the capital item number GG06 be funded from working capital. Do I have a mover and seconder? Deputy Mayor Weisler. Councillor Froese will second. All in favor? We are carried. 7:28, we're going to suspend. You can't get this. Can you get this done?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on then with report CAO 3825 by Thomas Thayer, CAO, regarding extension of site plan agreement, Phil Maurer and Associates at 56954 Eden Line, SPA 0323. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have an active site plan for Phil Maurer and Associates, MG Leasing Incorporated, for 56954 Eden Line. They are nearing the end of their site plan timeline, and they've reached out for an extension for a period of 6 months. We did seek confirmation from their engineer that the design of the fire pond would meet the fire suppression requirements. The engineer was unable to confirm the design was satisfactory, and we did accept a redesign of the fire pond and the hydrant. So this is both an extension for 6 months, and it is also revising the agreement to recognize a new drawing, Schedule B1. So this agreement was executed on September the 12th. It's attached to the report, and this is before council for information purposes only.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much, Thomas, for that. We have a motion then that reads that report CAO 3825 regarding extension of site plan agreement, Phil Maurer and Associates, MG Leasing, Inc. at 56954 Eden Line, Eden, application number SPA 0323 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Chilcott, seconded by Deputy Mayor Weisler. All in favor? Carried. We will now recess from our regular scheduled meeting in order to move into a statutory planning meeting. I will call this meeting to order at 7:30 p.m. Now remind members of disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. This evening, we are dealing with 2 zoning bylaw amendments. The first one is a proposed zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 1225, Koblenz Stall at 53609 Eden Line. The purpose of this bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject property from agricultural A1 zone to a site-specific agricultural A1 XX zone to permit the construction of an additional residential unit and attached garage on the property, which requires the following provisions. Section A, XX, to permit an ARU with a maximum gross floor area of 50% of the primary dwelling, that's 88.4 square meters excluding the garage. Whereas section 4.59E states the maximum gross floor area per additional residential unit shall not exceed 40% of the gross floor area of the primary dwelling unit. And section A, XX, to permit an ARU located 140 meters from the primary dwelling unit, whereas section 4.59F requires that an ARU to be located within 40 meters of the primary dwelling unit. The subject property is known as 53609 Eden Line, south side and east of Springer Hill Road. The effect of this bylaw is to permit a new additional residential unit with an attached garage that exceeds the maximum gross floor area and a maximum distance from the primary dwelling for an ARU. At this point, I will call for any public participation dealing with this application. Anyone wishing to speak to this, please come forward, sign in at the podium.
Good evening. My name is Jesse Froese. I'm the agent representing Matthew Koblenz for this zoning bylaw amendment. Thank you for your time, Mayor and Council. So this is a zoning bylaw amendment to permit an additional residential unit as was laid out nice and clearly. I just wanted to give a background. This is a property owned by a family that is Amish. Matthew is one of the sons and also a brother and part owner as well. He's getting married and he wishes to stay on the farm and to work the farm with his family as is tradition. And thus we are requesting this ARU. There are a few provisions that are requested. Due to the layout of the farm, the dwelling would be a little bit farther off, but basically besides that, it's fairly standard. And I'll be here if you guys have any questions for anything. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to this application? Okay. Mark, just to confirm, there isn't any correspondence with this application? Nor other business? Brings us to the adjournment motion. And I'll need a mover and seconder for the following: that the zoning bylaw be considered at a future meeting of council, and that pursuant to Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 1225 is now complete at 7:34 p.m. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Chilcott will move, Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Moving on with the second application B, call this meeting to order at 7:34 p.m. Remind the members of any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. This application deals with the proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 2125, Municipality of Bayham. The purpose of this zoning bylaw amendment is to permit an increased maximum building height of 8 meters on all land zone Village Residential 1 R1 zone and Village Residential 2 R2 zone by amending sections 10.5 and 11.6 of the Municipality of Bayham's zoning bylaw to permit a maximum building height of 8 meters, whereas a maximum building height of 7 meters is currently permitted. The subject properties are all lands zoned Village Residential 1 R1 zone and Village Residential 2 R2 zone. The effect of the zoning bylaw amendment is to permit an increased maximum building height of 8 meters on all land zoned Village Residential 1 R1 zone and Village Residential 2 R2 zone. At this point, I will call for any public participation. Anyone wishing to speak to this bylaw, please come forward, sign in, have your say.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think you've probably heard everything I've had to say about building heights on several occasions and several emails sent since 2022. It's been a long time, and as of to date, I still have not heard a planning justification for the 7 meters implemented, let alone the 8 meters, which was chosen based on an ad hoc comment from a agent who's not a planner. And the fire chief thought that that would be good. I have not seen a decent report come forward to council for council to make an informed decision about building heights. I have provided in the past tables that have been documented and sourced about building heights within and across BAM, within and across Elgin County. Our neighbors, Norfolk and Oxford. And I did a deep research into across Ontario to similar municipalities with volunteer fire departments, low budgets, small staff, and 10.5 is the number. It is the number that is across the board. In fact, some places in Elgin County will go up to 14 for an R1 or R2 zone. BAM is an outlier, an unjustified outlier. Margaret has claimed in private emails and to council that they have received legal advice. I'm not sure what kind of legal advice you're getting, because Minister Flatt provided documentation, large documentation, literally 2 council meetings prior to the first time this was finally brought up with a report. And that where Mr. Flack detailed and provided guidance on the changes under Bill 17. Part of those changes was to clarify the language under the Ontario Building Code that you cannot, that municipalities cannot and never have been able to make their own construction standards. For some reason, BAM planner and fire chief and council and mayor and CAO all believe that that is a planning justification. You have not provided me an argument or anybody an argument as to why. I know Ms. Chilcott said, Councillor Chilcott had said, there was no, in good heart, she could not pass a bylaw for building heights because she didn't want, it would break her heart if a child got injured. These are problems, operational problems with our fire department. They aren't zoning matters. They aren't zoning matters. The province makes it clear this is not a zoning matter. The intent in 2022, there was no report presented to council. Council never asked, they just accepted. You just accepted the number. You didn't say to yourself 7 meters. 6 meters is for a trailer park. 7 meters for our settlement boundary areas, our village R1 and R2 zones. A whole meter higher. Whereas we've got 3 meter, we've got 3-story, and you know, you can't build a 2-story, a good 2-story home unless you know, you want all these flat types of roofs. It's when we try to get justification on it from outside of BAM, I have to explain to them over and over again that this is your building height, and they seem to think it's a confusion with the part 3 and part 9 that people get mixed up in with there. And I go, no, this is their building height based on the housekeeping amendment in 2022 clearly stated the intent for it was because BAM's fire services couldn't reach over 7 meters. During that time, our condo development was for council. And in that memo from IBI at the time was flagged all over the place. well, we don't know if you're gonna meet the building height. We don't know if you're gonna meet the building height. This was a new zoning being put in the middle. No justification for it. We asked for several meetings to clarify changes, but planners said that they didn't need any clarification. And then when we see the IBI report, obviously they needed clarification because they didn't know how to calculate building heights. It's clear our building height for that development was even within that 7 meters. It was delayed and delayed and delayed. Mr. Emerson finally put a motion forward. It still was delayed. Council didn't come back. Calls into the planning department, said they're waiting for a legal opinion. Finally, a report comes through. A month after Mr. Flack brings forward this guidance that clearly states out, and what does BAM staff do? They present construction standards. If you want to build a house bigger than 7 meters, and 7 meters, BAM is the only municipality in all of Ontario that a 7-meter house over 7 meters is a fire risk, is a safety risk. It's beyond me how other smaller communities, they don't have a problem with it. I know the fire chief stood up here and he gave bleeding heart story, but you know what? That's an operational issue. It's a fire department issue. It is not a planning issue. It's not a zoning issue. If you want to have 7 meter, 8 meters, and then to pick arbitrarily, you guys are throwing numbers out. You mentioned 10 meters, you seconded it, you didn't hear that, you carried on. And then finally, the fire chief says, that non-planner who's trying to convince council that in his subdivision, we want houses higher than 8 meters, than 7 meters. And he goes, so I just said, 8 meters. And then when I spoke to him outside, he goes, if I knew you were doing a presentation, I would have asked for 10. It's ridiculous, 7 meters. But will these people stand up in front and speak? No, they don't come up in front and speak. So I know you guys are sick and tired of hearing it. And you also think we are standing here because of our development. It has nothing to do with it. I think it was put in place to try to stop our development. And now, because that was your intent in writing, it's very difficult to then have staff turn around and say, well, that's not really, and now come up with some other functional planning report. I have produced, I think, 9 documents where the planners have said in staff reports that the reason the 7 meter building height limitation is there is because our fire department cannot handle fires over 7 meters. But I have not seen the fire chief ask for money in his budget to fix that problem. I have not heard any discussion around this table to fix that problem. You want to implement construction and zoning bylaws as a way under to fix your operational deficiencies. I wished that if you didn't have a ladder that could reach and save people, that should have been on the budget. 2022, this was put on. The budget came out a month after. Why wasn't that on the budget? I don't know. So I don't support 7 meters. I don't support 8 meters. You've got 10.5 meters. The rest of the world is 10.5 meters for R1 and R2 zone. I would accept 10.5 meters to fall in line with everybody else so that developers and homeowners aren't costing money through variance applications and delays. You're supposed to be reducing the barriers to construction, not putting them in. And it was for the fire chief to stand there and say, it's $25,000, $30,000 or $35,000 to put in a sprinkler system. That's okay. That's not coming on to you, the developer. That's coming on to the home buyer. Well, come on. We've got a housing crisis here. You want to increase the prices of housing because you don't have a fire department that can fight a fire? I don't believe it. I've been told personally by him in a meeting that they can fight fires. And you want to tell me to shut up? Okay, I'll shut up so that you don't have to interrupt. So that's my position. I do not support anything but 10.5 or go back to where it was, which was nothing. You've never provided a report to substantiate or justify planning justification for 10.5 meters.
Okay, anyone else? All right. But no correspondence, Mark, just confirmation nod. Thank you. And there isn't any other business. Moving on then with the adjournment motion that the zoning bylaw be considered at a future meeting of council and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 2025 is now complete at 7:47 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Chilcott, Deputy Mayor Weiser, all in favor? Carried. Returning to our regular scheduled meeting. We left off at section 16. And that is other business, Long Point Region Conservation Authority Committee appointment. Correspondence was included on the agenda. Essentially, it is with regret that we will receive the resignation of Deputy Mayor Weiser from the Long Point Region Conservation Authority. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Please, Val. No.
Please keep your comments to yourself.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Just, yes, as council knows, in July, I accepted a new position with my job, which requires frequent travel. And my obvious responsibility and commitment is to council. So this is just an unfortunate side effect of the new role for me, which is going to require a little less time on committees. So with that, I would just make a motion to recommend that Ed, Mr. Mayor, take over my position on Long Point, and I'll leave that with council.
Okay, thank you for that report. I'll jump in quickly. We've had a discussion outside of council, obviously, just for council's edification. I, at one time, in a former term of council, did serve on the Long Point board, so I am somewhat familiar with the processes and procedures, and I would be happy to do this for the remainder of this term, providing someone else isn't interested or wants to take it on. I don't see other hands here rushing right up wanting to do it, so. Comments, discussion? Okay with that? Let's put the motion on the floor and see what council has to say. The motion reads that the council of the municipality of Bayham accepts Rainey Weiser's resignation from the Long Point Region Conservation Authority Board, and that Mayor Ed Ketchabah be appointed the replacement to the Long Point Region Conservation Authority for the remainder of the term, and that this resolution be forwarded to the Township of Malahide for approval and subsequently to Long Point Region Conservation Authority for information. Do we have a mover for that and a seconder? Should be moved by Rainey.
Yeah, I put the motion in, sorry.
Right, there we go. Moved by Deputy Mayor Weiser, seconded by Councillor Chilcott. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Carried. Okay, we do not have anything in camera this evening, so we are moving then to the confirming bylaw. The motion reads that confirming bylaw number 2025-057 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Chilcott. Counselor Froze. All in favor? Carried. Brings us to the adjournment motion that the council meeting be adjourned at 7:51 PM. Mover and seconder? Wow.
I'll give it to Dan.
Give it to Counselor Froze and you're gonna give the Counselor Chilcott the second. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you for joining us this evening and have a great night.